Reading from Visnu, the last section, starting the prayers. To His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, my eternal spiritual master, who delivered the merciful teachings of the Vaishnava Acharyas to the suffering world, I pray that he may be a little pleased with this attempt to glorify Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prestaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at His lotus feet. Shri Bhashabhanavi Devi, Dai Daya Kripate, Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to Shri Bhashabhanavi Devi, Daita Dasa, another name of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is favored by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the saints of Krishna. Madhuryojvalan Premadya, Shri Rupanaga Bhaktida, Shri Gaura Karna Sakti Vigrahaya Namostate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Shri Chaitanya's mercy, who deliver devotion service, which is enriched with the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of evolution of Srila Rupa Goswami. Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatharine, Rupanuga Viritapa Siddhanta Dvantaharini. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls, and you do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotion service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay, continuing the Appendix 5, excerpts from Srila Prabhupada's letters. Here at Mayapur, Guru Maharaj was printing one paper. It was selling for only a few paisa. Sometimes, whenever one brahmachari would go to Navadvip and sell even a few copies, I would see my Guru Maharaj become very much pleased. Even if the brahmachari was not a very important member, my Guru Maharaj would become very pleased with him. He personally instructed me, the books are more important than big temples. At Radhakund, he told me that since constructing a big marble temple at Bagh Bajar, there have been so many difficulties. Our men are envious over who will live in which room. I think it would be better to take off all the marbles and sell them and print books. He told me this personally. 1963, October 70, 74, 1063. 1974, 1063. Huh? 74, 1063. 63. Okay. So far I'm personally concerned following the footsteps of my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. We accept the principles of all the acharyas. Although officially we belong to the Madhva Sampradaya. Our Sampradaya is known as the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. We find great shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Ramanujacharya because his lotus feet are the strongest fort to combat the Mayavadi philosophy. Next one. I blindly follow my Guru Maharaj. I do not know what is the result. So I'm stressing on this point of book distribution. He told me personally. Besides that, in 1933, Bond was given the first chance to preach Lord Chaitanya's movement in London. He remained there about 4 years, and not a single person could be converted to become a Vaishnava. And he was receiving regularly 700 rupees per month for his expenditure, being supported by the whole Gaudiya Math institution. And still, as he could not do anything appreciable, he was called back by Guru Maharaj. No, you should not bother with all this nonsense. Astrology will not save you at the time of death. My Guru Maharaj was a great astrologer, an astronomer. but he gave it all up. It is meant for the karmis. We have no interest in such things. He has written that people will want to learn Bengali just to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. That was a prediction of my Guru Maharaj. This is very enlivening. I think you can go on renting, that is better. Personally, I do not have a financial brain, but my Guru Maharaj, he preferred rented house rather than one's own house. At least India, a rented house is preferred than one, and that is and that is practical. Next one. Your report of book sales is very encouraging. You're all becoming very, very dear to my Guru Maharaj. I started this movement by selling books. I was never a beggar for money, but I was writing books and selling. My Guru Maharaj very much liked my writing, and he used to show others in my absence. Just see how nicely he has written, how he has appreciated. He encouraged me. He encouraged me, um, and my god brothers. They also he encouraged, and my god brother they also liked my writing. After I wrote that poem for Vyasa Puja for a Guru Maharaj, they used to call me poet. Next one. My Guru Maharaj also did not approve of seclusion. He used to say, Dustamana tumi kishara Vaishnava, Pratishtharatare, Nirjanarekare, Thava Harinama Kevala Ketava. My dear mind, what kind of Vaishnava are you? Simply for cheap adoration, you sit in a solitary place and pretend to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But this is all cheating. Appendix 6 excerpts from the essays of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Uh, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Okay. The Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur writes, oh, the only dust of sadhus is to cut away all the accumulated wicked propensities of every individual. This alone is the causeless natural desire of all the sadhus. Only people possess a double nature. They express one kind of sentiment, but internally cherish a different purpose. Moreover, they want to advertise this duplicity as a mark of liberalism or love of harmony. Those who are unwilling to show any duplicity wish to be frank and straightforward, or in other words, to exercise unambiguously the function of the soul. Such really sincere persons are called sectarian and orthodox by those who practice duplicity. We will cultivate the society only of those who are straightforward. We will not keep company with any person who is not so. We must, by all means, avoid bad company. We are advised to keep at a distance of 100 cubits from animals of the horned species. We should observe the same caution in regard to all insincere persons. I think this is what similar with talking before. Uh, Something inside, something outside. There was time when Thakur Narottam was pleased to tell the plain truth to many worthy persons who came of the highest lineage. Thakur Narottam, in the eye of worldly people, had manifested himself just as a member of Uttaradaya Kaista family. For telling the truth, he became the object of attack by bad people. Those who judge other people by the testimony of their senses are, as a matter of fact, maliciously disposed. These persons, devoid of any sound judgment, began to find fault with Thakur Narottam. Why was he, born in a Kayastha family, going to set up as a religious teacher of persons born in Brahmana families and also make them his disciples? When these accusations reached the ears of Thakur Narottam, he said that rather than provoke the opposition of any person, he would completely desist from instructing anybody. Sri Ramakrishna Bhattacharya and Sri Ganganana Chakravarti, who were disciples of Thakur Mahasaya, thereupon said that if we gave up teaching the world, if we gave up teaching, the world will go to the dogs and there will be greater increase in the number of atheistical pashandas in the world. Saying this, one of them put on the garb of beetle seller, and other attired himself as a potter. Meanwhile, the whole body of proud pandits of the hostile community arrived at Kheturi with the intention of defeating Thakur Mahasaya in open controversy. After the arrival at Kheturi, they went to the bazaar and proceeded to the potter's shop for purchasing earthen pots in which to cook their food. The potters began to talk with them in the Sanskrit language. From there, those pandits went to the beetle shop for purchasing beetle. The beetle seller also talked with the pandits in pure Sanskrit. At this, those proud pandits thought within themselves that was most wonderful country where even potters and beetle sellers could talk in the purest Sanskrit. Thakur Narottam was the greatest person of such a place. It was impossible to conceive how great a pandit he could be. Therefore, instead of losing their reputation by approaching him, it was better to leave the place without delay. Thinking in this way, those pandits hurriedly left the village. Thus, we find that those who obtain the protection of truth are always liable to be attacked. This statement is very interesting. Those who obtain the protection of truth are always liable to be attacked, and at the same time, truth also will protect them. It's a nice Dharma Rakshita Rakshita. Whoever follows Dharma will be taken wrong by others, but on the same time, Dharma also saves them at the end. And Pandavas are also similar example. They went through a lot, and then Dharma finally took it over. So truth will always remain the truth. From search for truth, the sadhu. It is for this reason that the Bhagavata instructs us to turn over a new leaf. Persons of good sense must entirely give up all association with bad company and cultivate close association with the sadhus. There is no doubt that the words of the sadhu possesses the power of destroying the evil propensities of one's mind. The sadhus in this way benefit everyone who associates with them. There are many things which we would not disclose to sadhu, but the real sadhu makes us speak out what we keep concealed in our hearts. He then applies the knife. The very word sadhu has no other meaning than this. He stands in front of the block with the uplifted sacrificial knife in his hand. The sensuous desires of men are like the goats. The sadhu stands there to kill those desires by the merciful strokes of the keen edge of the sacrificial knife in the form of unpleasant language. Unpleasant language. I think you will like this, Mataji. If the sadhu turns into a if the sadhu turns into my flatterer, then he does me harm. He becomes my enemy. If he gives us flattery, then we are led to the road that brings enjoyment but no real well being. Uh, Next one. From Search for Truth, Ramanuja and Yadav Prakasha. Truth can never be served by the faculty that diverges from the Lord. The service of the truth is a function of the soul. It is incapable of being diverted from the truth. It is causeless and uninterruptible. Truth is identical with the teacher of the truth. There can be no knowledge of the conclusions of the Vedas without undeviating service at the lotus feet of Sri Gurudeva. No one can be teacher of the truth except the devotee of God. This is not the dogma of irrational orthodoxy. It is the real truth. One cannot be the guru, though he be descended from the highest lineage. Be initiated in all sacrifices, has studied the thousand and one branches of the Vedas. If he is, if he be not a true Vaishnava. In ancient times, there was a city called Kanchi in the south of the country. In that city, there lived a famous professor whose name was Yadav Prakasha. There is a tradition that at that time, there was no other professor in the whole of the part of the country who was his equal in learning. Lakshman Desika Ramanuja went to him for the purpose of study. He resided with his teacher. He was devoted to his studies with his whole heart. He was perfectly sincere in his conduct towards his teacher. These excellent qualities soon attracted the attention and captured the heart of his teacher. One day, Yadav Prakasha, following the interpretation of Shankaracharya, was explaining the well-known text of the Chandogya that the two eyes of Godhead are red like the hind part of the monkey. This caused intense pain to the heart of Ramanuja. Ramanuja was at that time engaged in tending the person of his teacher. He felt very much pain on hearing the blasphemy against the holy form of Godhead. The warm tears from his eyes fell in drops on the back of Yadav Prakasha. This sudden fit of weeping surprised Yadav Prakasha, who asked Ramanuja about the cause of his grief. Ramanuja then said that there was no necessity of explaining the word kapsayam in such a filthy and blasphemous manner, especially as the word possessed an excellent meaning. Was it not a was it not a most highly offensive act to compare the eyes of God Himself, the revered Lord and Master of us all, to the worst part of the body of a donkey? Yadav Prakasa was very angry on hearing these words of Ramanuja. He reprimanded Ramanuja in most severe terms. How highly impertinent for a mere lad to find fault with the interpretation of Shankaracharya. Was it possible that there could be any other explanation of the text than that of the Acharya? Ramanuja replied in words that were expressive of modesty. Yes, said Ramanuja, there is another meaning of the text which arguments the happiness of the spiritually enlightened. Acharya's explanation is intended for deluding those persons who are endowed with an unspiritual aptitude. I am telling you the other meaning. Deign to listen to my words. Hmm. Thereupon Ramanuja offered the famous explanation of Kapyasam in the text. Kam means water. That which drinks water is Kapi. Kapi is thus no other than the stem of the lotus. That which is placed on the stem is Kapyasam. In other words, the two eyes of the Supreme Person are tinged with red like the undimmed lustre of the unpacked lotus on its stem, shining on the bosom of the blue waters. Yadav Prakasha was filled with the greatest astonishment on hearing this explanation of the spiritual text. He felt most keenly the disgrace of his defeat at the hands of his own disciple. Maddened with anger, he plotted to do away with Ramanujan in secret. No teacher of undifferentiated cognition or of utilitarian works or of any worldly state of union with the Supreme Soul, yoga, or of the performance of activities resolved upon by oneself, prata, or of asceticism, or of magic, or of hypocrisy, can really be designated as a superior guru. They're all of them only triflers and being very light-headed indeed are capable of being easily manipulated. They're never the benefactors of the conditioned source. They're on the contrary, the enemies of themselves as well of all others.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I joined late. These are what essays or essays of Acha Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Essays. Okay, thank
Yeah. Go ahead, Mataji.
you. Me? Okay. 4. From Search for Truth, the Boatman and the Thorns. There is a certain class of persons who are devoid of ordinary common sense, who say, the function of the servant in this world is the worst of all. We have therefore no intention of practicing any similar function in the next world. We intend to be masters, to be objects of worship. As if the transcendental realm is full of unwholesomeness and is tortured by the triple quality, as is the case with this world. If one is ignorant of the true meaning of Vaikuntha, one is liable to fall into this kind of poverty of judgment. he is apt to attribute and imagine the existence of the unwholesomeness of the perverted, reflected image, even in the undisturbed substantive entity itself, into that realm where there is no principle of limitation, no question of evil, where there is only unmixed good. It is not our duty to carry from here anything that is productive of evil. The sun is a luminous, self revealing entity. It is not necessary to carry any lamp to the sun. There is a popular tale to illustrate such misconceptions. A certain boatman was troubled by the idea that the operation of pulling at the cord for towing his boat was a miserable job, involving great hardships, inasmuch as it required him to trudge painfully along most uneven ground over thorn and brambles, which often stuck into the bare soles of his feet. Therefore, if he could manage to get rich somehow, he would be in a position to tug at his cord by bestriding quilts and mattresses, which he would take care to spread over either bank of the river. The boatman of the story was so foolish that he intended to carry all the miserable pursuits of his power stricken state into the condition of affluence. The consideration that if he could get rich, it might not be necessary for him to tug at the cord at all would
Mm,
not penetrate his foolish pate.
mm,
Those persons who are bent on journeying to the transcendental realm, laden with all the superstitions and material judgments of this world, who are anxious to transport their sense ridden logic to the transcendental realm, who choose to imagine that in the realm that lies beyond this world, there can be any scope for the unavoidable slave mentality of this world, or any form of service which is anyway characterized by the factors of the unwholesomeness of this world, are indeed as stupid as the foolish boatman of the story. The function of the servant that prevails in the realm of the absolute, the servitude of the soul, in the state of freedom from the fetters of material bondage, is the natural condition of the soul, that is, perfect subordination to his own proper nature, swadhinata. By such servitude, even unconquerable Godhead himself is subdued. The Supreme Lord of all lords becomes our own.
Unconquerable God Himself is subdued. You want to subdue
Mm.
anyone or to speak of unconquerable Lord, right?
Mm.
Only
Supreme
thing to do
Lord
is just
becomes
take
our.
the mode of service. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. From Nomenclature of the Absolute, Mathura people. We all should aspire to be Mathura people. We should have a
Mm,
proper conception of spiritual Mathura instead of the mundane Mathura, which is the place of enjoyment of people with very low aspirations. Our Sahajiya brothers think that they can have access to Mathura by paying the railway fare. It is by surrendering ourselves to the preceptor's feet that we can have an abode in Mathura. Otherwise, we cannot get an entrance into the transcendental region. Yeah. We should approach the Guru, who will confer on us the 8 things, that is, name, mantras, etc. The name is the transcendental sound, and mantras are incantations. The name is identical with the named. The mantra is required to reach that situation in which the name can be properly chanted. The son of Shachi is the Supreme Lord himself. Damodar Swarup is the head of the Gauriyas, who are the transcendental servitors of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Rupa and Sanatan were sent to Mathura by Sri Krishna Chaitanya to diffuse transcendental knowledge there. There are several puris which can give salvation, and among them Mathura is the most supreme. Goshthavati Goshtavartiti signifies the place where Sri Krishna was feeding his cows. The sound go has various meanings such as knowledge, the senses, the animal cow, etc. Another holy spot is Radhakund, a tank where Sri Krishna got rid of the sin he had incurred by killing a cow named Arishtanemi. He killed Aristotelianism on the rationalistic process of reasoning of this imperfect world. When Krishna wanted to join hands with Radhika, Arishtanemi came forward to disturb him, because Radhika was thought by many people to be the wife of a milkman named Abhimanyu. This Arishtanemi was the incarnation of mundane knowledge, and Krishna killed him. For that act, he expiated by taking a dip in the Radha Kund. This Kund is the mental speculation of Radha. The eternal land of our abode should be Radha Kund. The eternal land of our abode should be Radha Kund. By the border of Radha Kund, we should have our groves. There are millions of groves on the banks of Radha Kund. Number 6. From the pathway to highest blessedness, the Guru. God has said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.26.26, a truly intelligent person should shun evil company but seek association with holy saints who, with their instructions, gnaw the knot of the worldly attachments of our mind. Nashtaprayeshu Bhatresh. Okay. The meaning is that for our true well-being, we should always accept the guidance of the true Guru, spiritual guide, and should not be misled by pseudo-gurus. The Guru never accepts Preya Pantha, way to pleasure, but he is a Shreya Panthi. That is, he follows the way to the true well-being. He gives others, that is his disciples, the same instruction to walk along the real path as he has received it from his Guru, of course, a true one. If a disciple asks permission of a Guru for drinking, he is sure to disapprove of it and never grant it. When the Guru does not indulge the disciple in his prayer for things after his mind, he may dismiss the Guru. Such disciples accept only the Gurus that are ready to supply fuel for their sensualism. Acceptance of a Guru has become a fashion nowadays, not for the disciple's true well-being, but for getting one's sensual pleasures approved of. Such appointments satisfy only the social or family customs, like those of barbers and washers. 7. From Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vaishnava cult, Maya. From an interview with Pandit Shamsundar Chakravarti, a leader of the independence movement, and at that time the chief editor of Servant and Vasumati, an English magazine. Question: what is Maya? The derivative meaning of Maya is what is measurable. Bhagavan is the Lord of Maya. He cannot be measured. Where there is an attempt to measure God, there is Maya, and not God. Ma means not, and Ya means what. That is, what is not God is Maya. The Maya, as said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is not like the Satan in the Christian theology, a separate entity from God, altogether another entity. According to the Bhagavat school, Maya is in Bhagavan in the condemned state. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7, 4 and 5. In order to award condign punishment on the atomic sentience, that is jivas, controlled by Maya. In the Gita 7.4 and 5, God has said, earth, water, fire, air, sky, the mind, intelligence, and egotism, these constitute my separate inferior potency, whereas other than this is my superior potency, constituting the jivas by which is supported the universe. This inferior potency is the Maya potency. This inferior potency has been stupefying the jivas that are apathetic towards God since before the beginning of time and causing misunderstanding in them. Sometimes assuming the form of 20, sometimes as the atom of Kannada of the Vaisheshika system. Sometimes also as Jaimini's principle of elevation in the Purva Mimamsha system. Sometimes again as the 16 objects of Gautama in the Nyaya system, sometimes as superhuman power and absolute oneness with God of Patanjali of the yoga system, and sometimes as the pretense of search after Brahma of the Shankar system. Why does such an event happen? Because the jivas have free will of their own. Then how can this be reconciled with the teaching of the Gita, which says God stays in the heart of all the living, of all the creatures, and makes them whirl around in a machine as it were by the agency of Maya? Bhagavad Gita 18.61. This instruction in the Gita rather supports the above statement. It is Sri Vishnu who is God, the controller of all beings. God gives the jivas the fruit according to their performance of karma. Jiva is the doer and God is the giver. God's authority is seen in the giving of the fruits and governance of the cause and effect. So God is the giver of the fruits and the jivas the enjoyers thereof. Why is there the independence of the jivas? Answer: jivas are atomic parts of God, the vibhuchit, plenary sentience. The property of the sea, viz. Water, is present in an atomic degree in a drop too. Vibhu, or overlord, God, is totally independent. There is independence in anuchit, jiva, and that is atomic sentience too, proportionately. Question: is the proper use or abuse of the independence of jivas instigated by God? Answer: if it had been God instigated, then that would have amounted to the service of God and not caused jiva's forgetfulness about him. Then how can the conclusion be arrived at? Everything depends on God's will? I'm putting these questions not for the sake of discussion. I am asking them because you are a great teacher and a great devotee at the same time. In the Hindi Gita of Sri Tilaka, I read an Abhanga, panegyric to God, by Tukaram, the sense of which runs thus: O God, if my karma brings me liberation, then what should I have to do with you? Answer. The Srimad Bhagavatam has given a reply to this. 10.14.8. He is an heir to liberation, O God, who feeling your grace in everything and enduring the troubles caused by his own karma, bows down to you with mind, speech, and body, that is, wholeheartedly. He who has acquired fitness for being freed from the world understands that if the blame is laid at the door of God, then on account of the want of the tendency towards doing service to God, liberation is never available. But only that person can easily become the possessor of the position of liberation who is fortunate in having the tendency for the chit service aroused in him, and can be more attracted towards God, considering all the troubles and difficulties as his grace. Then are the sins that we commit due to God's grace? No, they are not. The predilection for sins has been given to test us, in the same manner as money, paddy, a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., are placed before an infant at the time of the first rice ceremony to see what it takes according to its innate tendency. Before the thread ceremony, too, the Acharya tests the tendency of the boy to be initiated. God's cruelty is what the human intellect apprehends when it is apathetic towards God. If one takes it to be a punishment, it is to be understood that such a one is wanting in a serving temper and in attraction for God. God is the shelter for all. He sends many obstacles and inconveniences to those who wish to shelter under him, in order to test their ardor and steadiness. For example, when the Vaidya prescribes bitter and astringent medicines and distasteful diets, or the doctor opens the abscess with his lancet, if the patient is displeased with him on the ground that they are cruel and not his well-wishers, his decision is wrong, as he has taken his real friends to be enemies. The divine potency Maya has kept tempting objects as exhibits for alluring me, just as the fishing hook or the net or the rat trap or the chain is set to delude fish, rats, elephants, etc. The object is that I may thereby get more and more entangled in the worldly meshes. Misled by these deluding traps, sometimes I become a wanton performer of misdeeds, sometimes a philanthropist doing good deeds, sometimes again consider oneness with the non-distinct Brahman as good for me, feeling a high regard for the doctrines of Buddha, Shankaracharya, or Kapila. Mayadevi has placed in order alluring things according to the diverse temperaments of the persons who are deluded by the tenets of karma or jnana due to their having desires for things other than the truth. Jiva will attain his true well-being when he engages himself in the accounts relating to God. There is no other way there too. God does not set up obstructions against anyone, and he is not the destroyer of Chaitanya Dharma or sentience in him. It would have been an act of cruelty on his part if he had placed obstacles against this sentience. He is only informing the sentient entities of what is the proper use of their sentience and what are its abuses. Number 8, from Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vaishnava cult. What benefit has Vaishnavism done to the world? Answer. Politics will not be able to do even 1 part of a crore parts in thousands of eras of the benefit that the Vaishnavas have done to the world. We are not advising others to be such narrow sectarians as the politicians are. Question. How many people are there who know of Vaishnavism? Answer. How many postgraduates are being turned out? How many Newtons have been born? Is it a wise principle to give up the culture of science because many Professor J.C. Boses are not being produced? 9. From Colloquies with Foreigners. Interview with William Henry Jan van Dor, Stock of Batavia, on December 26, 1935. Question. Do you know the absolute gradually or at once? Answer. The knowledge of the absolute can be had all at once. There is no factor of time or space. If we are at all intent on knowing him, we must have some sort of objective reference for his subjective activity. Now we are busy with worldly affairs. We think we are men and women. Instead of doing so, we should be serving him, and when he participates with our pure selves, we will be set free from all the tempting influence of the different things of nature. We want that we should go back. Like a shooting star, we have strayed out of the range of his attraction. Like a comet, we are journeying without cessation. Our eternal condition is that we are absolute infinitesimals, and as such, we should dovetail with the absolute infinity. The function between him and us is love. He is the lover. If he loves us, we will be taken back. If he has an apathetic tendency towards us, it is because we are averse to him, and we we will be undergoing 84 lakhs of births and deaths again and again. It would be judicious for us that we should go back to the absolute infinity, and all our engagements should be with him and not with anybody else.
Do you want to say something, and then Amani Razamata, you can wrap it up?
Yeah, it is. I mean, some of the philosophies that I'm kind of aware of from Srila Prabhupada's books, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has so nicely, with somewhat difficult English in some places, but with examples and things that would possibly be to make foreigners understand in some places, and and just his style. I mean, the same thing. I mean, he's basically saying how God loves us, the relationship. It is the sambandha, and the fact that we are all parts and parcels.
Mm.
It's nice to read
Sure.
that. Yes, Prabhu. The English is
Okay.
difficult, though, sometimes hard to understand, but the gist of it is really nice.
Okay. Okay. She didn't raise her hand. I don't know if she wants to read or not.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, I can read Prabhu, but I don't know where you are and I cannot see my phone with that small. So I'll open in my laptop. Where we reading from?
The
From
10th one.
Colloquies. I'll do a search word.
COLLOQUIES.
Okay. Yes. 9 to 10. From Colloquies with Foreigners. An interview with Professor Jonas, the head of the Department of Philosophy of St. Xavier's College. Question. What are these four Vedas?
Vadas.
Vadas. Answer. Achidvada is materialism of the following nature, as when one says, I shall be Indra, the king of heaven, or I shall enjoy worldly pleasures in the vein of Charvaka, the Indian Epicurus, whose philosophy was that pleasure was the highest good, or again, I shall borrow and drink and not think of discharging the debt. I shall have convenient arrangements for leading a comfortable life in this world and to be a great enjoyer. I shall acquire and preserve health. I shall make a proper use of the canine teeth by eating fish and meat and vigorously manage the function of youth and so on. Achin Matra Vada is the name of the attempt to annihilate the sentient existence on the ground that Achidvada is only temporal and the sentient existence is the unavoidable root of all troubles and miseries. According to them, the extinction of the sentient existence is the most laudable and valuable thing, inasmuch as existence is the root of all evils. Sakyasimha, Kapila, etc. were the propounders of this doctrine. Chinmatravada Vada is the name of the attempt to merge in Brahman and thus destroy the Anuchit property of the Jiva. Shankaracharya and before him Dattatreya were the propounders of this doctrine. The different Anuchetanamas jivas of the entire Chit, God, remaining ever attracted by the Vibhu Chetana, God, show love towards him. This is known as Chit Vilasa Vaichitriya. Here the Atma soul is ever entirely engaged in the sportive activities with God. In it there are no sins and no spiritual offences more heinous than sins, like the covered state of the soul in Achitvada. The attempt to annihilate Atma and Paramatma as in Achinmatra Vada, or spiritual suicide as in Chinmatra Vada. Very difficult to understand. I'm just reading.
Chintamani Mata, you will explain.
There are here the full unfolding, the full beauty, and the full collation of Paramatma and Atma. Question. You have just expounded very high philosophical truths, which I shall take a long time to digest. Answer. Only time will not do. This truth should be listened to again and again verbally from the mouths of a true acharyas. Some time ago, Mr. Chapman of the Imperial Library listened for 2 or 3 hours to the philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Deva, and at the end he admitted that even for a scholar like him, the philosophy was extremely difficult to enter into. So it cannot be understood without repeated hearings and devout submission. 11. From immanent and transcendent, the scorpion and the fire. What relish can there be in this decaying body, made up of 5 decomposable elements and full of putrescence and impurity? Shall we not mind for a moment that this perishable and ever-changing body is liable to wrath, ambition, illusion, fear, grief, envy, hatred, separation from those we hold most dear and association with those we hate? What relish can there be therefore material enjoyments when we are exposed to hunger, thirst, disease, decrepitude, emaciation, growth, decline, and death? The universe is tending to decay. Grass, trees, animals spring up and die. Mighty men are gone, leaving their joys and glories. Beings still greater than these have passed away. Vast oceans have dried, mountains have been thrown down, the polar star displaced, the cords that bind the planet rent asunder, the whole earth deluged with flood. In such a world, what relish can there be for fleeting enjoyments? Living in such a world, are we not like frogs jumping in a dried up well? To get rid of the deception of this false and precarious seeming friend, we should be sincerely suppliant before the Supreme Lord and water our couch with tears. He will receive our prayers, have mercy on us, and out of his naturally loving kindness, appear before us as the preceptor, with all the proficiency in the scriptures, and fully free from the hankerings of the senses, to rid us from the clutch of the wicked mind, which has flame all around and death within, to cut asunder all its knots and hitches, and to dispel all our darkness of the heart, as an elephant runs away from the darkest recesses of the jungle at the approach of the lion, and the veil of darkness is withdrawn from the surface of the earth at the advent of aurora. Then the mind will brood over its guilty woes like a scorpion girt by fire. Editor's note. When a scorpion is encircled by fire, he stings himself and dies. So the wicked nature of the mind is destroyed by the presence of the fire like Acharya. Wow. 12. from the real and apparent divine form. Through the light emitted by the divine drives away all worldly ignorance and misery and draws the purified soul unto itself. It is as if a great light draws to itself one of its own rays gone astray. What happens to the individual ray after it is merged into the great light is left undescribed. No vocabulary, it is urged, can carry us into the mystic depths of existence inside the green light. This is the Semitic psychology represented by the idea of the undefinable personality of Godhead. Persons under the influence of such mentality are apt to be disinclined to accept any concrete description of the form and doings of Godhead. They prefer to make their obeisances to the zone of light and do not consider it their duty to be over-curious or to peep into its hidden secrets. But the realm of light, according to both the Quran and Bible, is inhabited by an infinite host of angels with angles. Host of angels? No, angels. With bodies of light who eternally serve Godhead and have an uninterrupted view of Him in His divine realm. But beyond this admission, no clue is supplied to the details of the actual divine form or to describe or represent Him or His angels, right, Prabhu, this one?
Angels.
Angels. Angels to mortal ear or mortal eyes is condemned as an idolatrous activity. It is also considered an offense to describe the form and activities of Godhead, even analogously in terms of mortal experience. This caution is salutary only within its proper limits. If it tantamounts to end in denial of the divine form or to the assertion that Godhead is formless, it strikes at the very root of all real spiritual activity. The worship practiced by avowed or covert impersonalist and abstractionist is in principle indistinguishable from opposition to worship itself under a hypothetical concern for the preservation of its purity. The fury against idolatry often masks this sentiment of inveterate hostility to the very principle of worship. An offense that is attempted against Godhead recoils on the offender with tenfold severity. If Godhead is denied his form, the offender is punished by addiction to the gross conception that the physical body and mind are his own real form. And this conception leads its victim to the vicious round of his worldly activities. Every item of such worldly activity is a punishment for the denial of the corresponding activity of the Lord. This is verily the hypocrite's hell. The prayers of impersonalists offend the Lord more than the denunciation of his avowed enemies. 13. From real and apparent free existence. The subjection of the soul to the laws of a foreign mistress is a result of his own deliberate choice. He can easily revert to the state of free existence by the exercise of the same freedom of choice. But free existence does not mean mastery over others. Free existence does and can mean only constitutional existence in the transcendent region. The soul is a tiny particle of universal soul. By his constitution, he is subject to the spiritual power of the divinity, of which he is a constituent part. When he chooses to function in his own position in the spiritual system and in subordination to the laws of the spiritual realm, he is constitutionally free. Whenever he chooses deliberately not to serve the Absolute, he thereby ipso facto loses this natural or free state and is compelled to submit to the divine will under pressure. This thraldom he learns to prefer to real freedom by the tricks of the illusory energy of Godhead Maya, which creates a world by the will of Godhead, in which Godhead makes himself invisible for the benefit of the Jiva. In this world, the Jiva finds ample scope for his atheistic activities, which only result in ever increasing misery and disappointment. 14. From real and apparent, the voice of the soul. The awakened soul says in effect to the mind and body, I am not identical with you. I do not want what you require. I have so long believed that I was identical with yourselves and that our interests were the same. But I now find that I am really and categorically different from you. I made wholly of the principle of self-consciousness, while both of you are made of dead matter. Being matter, you can act and be acted upon by matter under the laws of nature. Nature makes and unmakes you, but she has no power over me. I am not benefited by your growth or harmed by your decay. You grow and decay by the laws that govern your relationship with this physical universe. Falsely identifying myself with you, I find myself compelled to suffer pain and pleasure due to physical vicissitudes that overtake you. I find myself unnaturally yoked to your functions such as eating, drinking, producing thought, etc., and am forced to believe them to be my own functions by which I am benefited. I shall, of course, have to stay with you as long as it is intended by the providence that I should suffer the consequences of this unnatural alliance with you. I shall permit you to do only what I consider to be necessary for my well being, that is, getting back into my natural position of free conscious existence, unhampered by the unnatural domination by longing for material enjoyment. I refuse to be any more a slave of sensuous inclinations of the mind and body. Soul is saying this. 15. From spiritual morality and atheistic culture, anecdotes and atheism. In my college career in the Calcutta Sanskrit College, I had an occasion to discuss with the principal of the college the utility of theistic culture. He appeared to cherish the view that a man can lead a moral life independently of this theistic culture. I took exception to the proposition and asserted that morality divorced from the theistic culture is only another name for the doctrine of convenience and enjoyment, by which neither individual nor social good can be attained. Another occasion, when I had been to the place of late Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, he said to us, "You see, my friends, when I have no actual experience about Godhead or about his real self, then even taking it for granted that he exists, if I make any statements about him, and if he provokes to be unlike what I say in all sincerity, I should certainly run the risk of being taken to task by him after my death. For that reason, I do not like to enter into any discussions about God with anybody, but only give ordinary moral instructions which I understand and act up to myself." A great East who was present said to the Pandit, "Why then have you written in your book Bodhodaya that God is without a form and of the nature of the principle of awareness? Have you written this after you have actually seen him? Or have you made those statements by merely relying on some conventional doctrines? Views like the above have passed current among the empiricists of all times and to this day. While on the one hand, they are aware that as they happen to know nothing about God, they should not hear nor discourse about Him. On the other hand, in spite of this utter ignorance, they are always busy to declare Him to be an impersonal entity. To this I contend that as they do not know anything at all about God, does it not become them and all those who are equally ignorant to hear and discuss about God with those who are well versed in the line? It is indeed strange that without giving a patient hearing to the adepts and without systematic culture, under the pretext of not being prepared to pass any judgment theorem, we should run to do so according to our passing mental predilections. Hidden atheism of this type has eaten into the vitals of most persons. Mankind has a natural tendency towards this impersonal idea of Godhead, and it has spread among them like a contagious disease. The idea may be traced to the innate desire of mankind to be freed from all subjection to their sole governor, which can be effected if he can be proved to an entity without a form. The attempt to make him impersonal is an attempt to deny his eternal rulership. The argument is this, that we ourselves should possess eyes, ears, mouth, form, senses, and so forth. But Godhead must not have any of these, lest if he be furnished with this, he might be brought down to our level. Those who maintain that when Godhead comes into this world, he does so by putting on a form of flesh, but that his real self is impersonal. Or in other words, devoid of transcendental name, form, attributes, and pastimes, also throw off the yoke of his rule in a form that may pass undetected. Anarchy flows directly from the idea of their well-being, no real ruler over the affairs of man. Moral order divorced from the idea of government has no root. Sannyas, renunciation, self-restraint, and any other activities of a person which are not of the nature of acts of submission to the supreme governor, though they may dazzle the eyes of the world by their so-called excellence, are nothing but sterile atheism. To pretend to obey only moral rules irrespective of regard for Godhead is like living in a kingdom without acknowledging the authority of the king. Those who are naturally inclined towards Godhead, even though they may appear to the superficial observer to be vitiated, are in reality most fully established in moral living. All moral principles and those who enforce the moral order have their seat in the devotees of God. So, if instead of making futile, dissociated attempts for the cultivation of conventional morality, the attention of a person be directed to the service of Godhead, all real morality and good qualities will be found concomitant thereto. The order is not morality first and devotion to God next. Devotion has always the first place, inasmuch as every good is concomitant to it. Devotion is the meaning of all morality, and real devotees of God are never immoral, not even in their dreams.
We'll hold here, Madhuri. We'll ask Chintamani Madhuri to come back. You want to say something?
It's very hard to understand this language, Prabhu.
Yeah, very hard.
Yeah, and I see.
Srila Prabhupada's language. Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada really made it like, juice tablet.
Right. Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, I liked about where the soul is talking about that she's not completely independent of body and everything. I liked how the soul is talking. Those lines are nice, poetic, and then couldn't understand much, but I got a little bit of essence of how soul is talking.
Yeah. So
Yes.
nice, Mataji. Okay, Chintamani Mataji, back to you.
Not okay. 16. From spiritual morality and atheistic culture, decorating dead bodies. There cannot be a well imagined greater shock to the sense of beauty than the attempt to deck a corpse. The endeavor to decorate the things of this world by means of our mundane resources is very similar to the attempt to beautify a dead body. The result is the
He has
result.
been repeating this actually in the other places also.
Hmm.
Pretty strong condemning.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it make very strong point, right? Made very clearly. The result is a foregone conclusion. Foregone conclusion. Our atheistic favorite of this moment is discarded at the next in favor of others who also are replaced by others in their turn. The king who lives in the most costly style has no more liking for the showy splendors of his royal state when they are not renewed than the pauper has for his old tattered rags. Familiarity breeds contempt for all things of this world on account of their inherent ugliness, which is found out on actual contact. Poets and painters rely upon the equally futile resources of their limited imagination for masking the inherent ugliness of the conditions of mundane existence. Such imagining is not intended to lead us to the reality. Goldsmith truly hit the function of the worldly poet and artist when he declared that their wisdom consisted in innocently amusing the imagination in their dream of life. The imagination does not want anything that is not new and also not its liking, and its liking is ever directed downward to its kindred point of the flesh or the corpse. It is not possible even for the imagination to deceive itself regarding the naturally loathsome character of the dead body, the ultimate source of its inspiration. The imagination of man is no more competent judge of his real atheistic needs than his scientific acumen. Both are directed to mundane objectives which are essentially ugly and unwholesome. There can be no abiding value in poetry unless both the poet and his surroundings are radically changed into entities that do not irresistibly and unatheistically drag us down to the most rotten things of the world. It is no true poetry that seeks to disguise this fact by the external embellishments of rhythm and vocabulary. Such ingenuity can only amuse those to whom it is a novelty, and can do so only till the trick does not grow stale. It is the logical nemesis of this state of things that commerce is rapidly getting hold of every department of this make-believe atheistics. The tailor is making the man because, strangely enough, man wants to be made by him in seeming despair of any better alternative. Okay. 17. From Brahma Samhita and the beginning of transcendental plane of amorous love. The materialistic demeanor cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat, who is ever inviting the fallen conditioned souls to associate with him through devotion or eternal serving mood. The materialistic demeanor cannot possibly stretch to the transcendental autocrat, who is ever inviting the fallen, conditioned souls to associate with him through devotion or eternal serving mood. The phenomenal attractions are often found to tempt sentient beings to enjoy the variegated position which is opposed to undifferentiated monism. People are so much apt to indulge in transitory speculations, even when they are to educate themselves on a situation beyond their empiric area or experiencing jurisdiction. Indulge in speculations, even when they are to educate themselves on a situation beyond their empiric area or experiencing jurisdiction. The esoteric aspect often knocks them to trace out immanence in their outward inspection of transitory and transformable things. This impulse moves them to fix the position of the immanent to the indeterminate impersonal entity, no clue of which could be discerned by moving earth and heaven through their organic senses. Phew.
So, in the beginning of the reading, when we're reading this high grade things, ways to hear, it's not getting to it, we're not able to read through it, we're not able to read through it like that. And then remembering that Prabhupada used to say, I don't used to understand what my Guru Maharaj was telling, but I just sit anyways.
Mm.
Now we are getting the gist of it. Oh God.
Yeah.
And imagine how it would have been in those days, at least. But actually, through this reading, I was even thinking, I think the Brahma Samhita is not this hard to read like that. But here, the last excerpt is from Brahma Samhita. So even this is also like sounding pretty tough. Okay, now we'll come back to our Srila Prabhupada's easy digestible things, and we'll go more quickly from here.
You're reading, bro? You read.
You want me? You want to take a break?
Okay, no, I can read a little more, and then you can. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Excerpts from the books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. 1. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita. These calculations are given in the authentic astronomy book known as Surya Siddhanta. This book was compiled by the great professor of astronomy and mathematics, Vimal Prasad Datta, later known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, who was our merciful spiritual master. He was honored with the title Siddhanta Saraswati for writing the Surya Siddhanta, and the title Goswami Maharaj was added when he accepted sannyas, the renounced order of life. Adi, chapter 3, page 169. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur always used to say, even at the expense of all the properties, temples, and mathas that I have, if I could convert even one person into a pure devotee, my mission would be fulfilled. Adi, chapter 7, page 73. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains in his Anubhashya, a person who has attracted the attention of the spiritual master by his sincere service likes to dance and chant with similarly developed Krishna conscious devotees. The spiritual master authorizes such a devotee to deliver fallen souls in all parts of the world. Those who are not advanced prefer to chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a solitary place. Such activities constitute, in the language of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, a type of cheating process in the sense that they imitate the activities of exalted persons like Haridas Thakur. One should not attempt to imitate such exalted persons. Like such exalted devotees. Rather, everyone should endeavor to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all parts of the world and thus become successful in spiritual life. One who is not very expert in preaching may chant in a secluded place, avoiding bad association, but for one who is actually advanced, preaching and meeting people who are not engaged in devotional service are not disadvantages. A devotee gives the non-devotees his association but is not affected by their misbehavior. Thus, by the activities of a pure devotee, even those who are bereft of love of Godhead get a chance to become devotees of the Lord one day. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur advises that one discuss the verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Nayat samas charej jatu manasapi hi anishvara 10:33-31 and the following verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayanjata nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchyate. One should not imitate the activities of great personalities. One should be detached from material enjoyment and should accept everything in connection with Krishna's service. Adi, chapter 7, pages 74-75. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, at the time of his passing away, ordered all his disciples to work conjointly to preach the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. Later, however, some self-interested, foolish disciples disobeyed his orders. Each of them wanted to become head of the mission, and they fought in the courts, neglecting the order of the spiritual master, and the entire mission was defeated. We are not proud of this. However, the truth must be explained. We believe in the words of our spiritual master and started in a humble way, in a helpless way, but due to the spiritual force of the order of the Supreme Authority, this
movement has become successful.
This movement has become successful. The Vaishnavas are by far the greatest philosophers in the world, and the greatest among them was Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu, whose philosophy was again presented less than 400 years later by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. Adi, chapter 7, page 83. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has explained the term Mayavadi as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the material conception of life. A Mayavadi is one who considers the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, to be made of Maya, and who also considers the abode of the Lord and the process for approaching him, devotional service, to be Maya. The Mayavadi considers all the paraphernalia of devotional service to be Maya. Adi, chapter 7, page 25. Professional players and dramatic actors have no sense of devotional service, and therefore, although they can perform very artistically, there is no life in such performances. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to refer to such an actor as Yatra Daler Narad, which means farcical Narad. Sometimes an actor in a drama plays the part of Narad Muni, although in his private life he is not at all like Narad Muni because he is not a devotee. Such actors are not needed in dramatic performance about the lives of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna. Adi, chapter 10, page 258. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was previously also a great astrologer, says that in the book named Brihad Jataka, and other books, there are directions for knowing the movements of the stars and planets. One who knows the process by drawing a straight line and thus understands the area of Ashtavarga, can explain the auspicious constellations. Translation. Having shown the verse to Swarup Damodar with great wonder, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him how Rupa Goswami could understand the intentions of his mind. Purport. We had the opportunity to receive a similar blessing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami when we presented an essay at his birthday ceremony. He was so pleased with that essay that he used to call some of his confidential devotees and show it to them. How could we have understood the intentions of Srila Prabhupada? In connection with this verse, which is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 11:23-58, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that of the 64 items required for rendering devotional service, acceptance of the symbolic marks of sannyas is a regulative principle. Madhya, chapter 3, page 243. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a mundane person, being enriched by mundane opulences, must always know that the transcendental opulences of the advanced devotees are far more important than the materialistic opulences of a person like himself. A materialistic person with materialistic opulences should not be very proud or puffed up before a transcendental devotee. If one approaches a transcendental devotee on the strength of his material heritage, opulence, education, and beauty, and does not offer respects to the advanced devotee of the Lord, the Vaishnava devotee may offer formal respects to such a materially puffed up person, but may not deliver transcendental knowledge to him. Madhya, chapter 8, page 161. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave different persons different orders, and consequently, one should not try to imitate the behavior of Haridas Thakur without being ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or his representative. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur condemns such imitations in this way. Dushtomon, tumi kisher Vaishnav, pratishtara tare nirjanera ghare, tabo hori nam kebol koitao. My dear mind, you are trying to imitate Haridas Thakur and chant the Hare Krishna mantra in a secluded place, but you are not worth being called a Vaishnava, because what you want is cheap popularity and not the actual qualifications of Haridas Thakur. If you try to imitate him, you will fall down. For your neophyte position will cause you to think of women and money. Thus, you will fall into the clutches of Maya, and your so-called chanting in a secluded place will bring about your downfall. Madhya 11, 300 and page 302. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that because there are many permanent residents in holy places who do not precisely follow the rules and regulations governing living in a sacred place, exalted devotees have to go to these places to reclaim them. Madhya 10, page 115. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks, the impersonalists imagine some forms of the absolute truth through the indirect perception of their senses. Through the direct perception of their senses. The impersonalists worship such imaginary forms, but neither Srimad Bhagavatam nor Sri Charitamrita accepts this sense gratificatory worship to be of any spiritual significance. Madhya 9, pages 102 and 103. For Srila Saraswati Thakur's explanation of the mystery of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cleansing of the Gundija temple, please read Madhya 12, page 64 through 68. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that any Vaishnava who is constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord should be considered to have attained the second platform of Vaishnavism. Such a devotee is superior to a neophyte Vaishnava who has just learned to chant the holy name of the Lord. A neophyte devotee simply tries to chant the holy name, whereas the advanced devotee is accustomed to chanting.
Oh no. Oh, 7:30 already. Okay, we should have asked
Yes,
you to
Prabhu.
read early. We missed.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
Hari Bol, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Oh, you have to leave. Okay. So, what do you want to do?
Yeah, let's continue. Such an advanced devotee.
Whereas the advanced devotee is accustomed to chanting and takes pleasure in it, such an advanced devotee is called Madhyama Bhagavat, which indicates that he has attained the intermediate stage between the neophyte and the perfect devotee. Generally, a devotee in the intermediate stage becomes a preacher. A neophyte devotee or an ordinary person should worship the Madhyama Bhagavata, who is a via medium. Madhya 16, page 194. The unwanted creepers have been described by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. One may also desire freedom from the material bondage, like the Mayavadis, or one may become attached to the yoga siddhis and desire wonderful yogic powers. If one is attached to wonderful material activities, one is called siddhi lobhi, greedy for material perfection. One may also be victimized by diplomatic or crooked behavior, or one may associate with women for illicit sex. Others may make a show of devotional service, like the Prakritya Sahajiyas. Or one may try to support his philosophy by joining some caste or identifying himself with a certain dynasty claiming a monopoly on spiritual advancement. Thus, with the support of family tradition, one may become a pseudo guru or so-called spiritual master. One may become attached to the four sinful activities: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Or one may consider a Vaishnava to belong to a mundane caste or creed. One may consider Vaishnavas in terms of birth, thinking one a Brahmana Vaishnava, a Brahmana Vaishnava, a Sudra Vaishnava, a Mlecha Vaishnava, and and so on. One may also try to carry out a professional business while chanting the Hare Krishna mantra or reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Or one may try to increase his monetary strength by illegal means. One may also try to be a cheap Vaishnava by chanting in a secluded place for material adoration, or one may desire mundane reputation by making compromises with non-devotees, compromising one's philosophy or spiritual life, or one may become a supporter of a hereditary caste system. All these are pitfalls of personal sense gratification. Just to cheat some innocent people, one makes a show of advanced spiritual life and becomes known as a sadhu, mahatma, or religious person. All this means that the so-called devotee has become victimized by all these unwanted creepers and that the real creeper of Bhaktilata Beach has been stunted. Madhya 9, page 344. It is certainly not good to write literature for money or reputation, but to write books and publish them for the enlightenment of the general populace is real service to the Lord. This was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's opinion, and he specifically told his devotees to write books. He actually preferred to publish books rather than establish temples. Temple construction is meant for the general populace and neophyte devotees, but the business of advanced and empowered devotees is to write books.
There you go, no?
Write books, publish them and distribute them widely. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, distributing literature is like playing on a great mridanga. Consequently, we always request members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to publish as many books as possible and distribute them widely throughout the world. By thus following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami, one can become a Rupa Nuga devotee. Madhya 19, page 314. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta comments that Saralata or simplicity is the first qualification of a Vaishnava, whereas duplicity or cunning behavior is a great offense against the people. Qualification is a great offense against the principle of devotional service. As one advances in Krishna consciousness, one must gradually become in Krishna consciousness. One must gradually become disgusted with the material attachment, and thus become more and more attached to the service of the Lord. If one is now factually detached from material activities, but still proclaims himself advanced in devotional service, he is cheating. No one will be happy to see such behavior. Antya 2, chapter 2.1, 179. Now you go ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's getting a little hard to read. Okay, I think we have 10 more pages. Chastisement of Junior Haridas, instructions from this chapter. Summarizing this chapter, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that one should derive from it the following lessons. Number 1, although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the personality Godhead, is an incarnation of mercy, he nevertheless gave up the company of one of his personal associates, namely Junior Haridas. For if he had not done so, pseudo devotees would have taken advantage of Junior Haridas's fault by using it as an excuse to leave as devotees and at the same time have illicit connections. Such activities would have demoralized the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as a result, devotees would have surely gone to hellish life in the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Number 2, by chastising Junior Haridas, the Lord set the standard for Acharya, or the heads of institutions propagating the Chaitanya cult, and for all actual devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to maintain the highest standard. Number 3, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed that a pure devotee should be simple and free from sinful activities. For this, one can be his bona fide servant. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught his followers how to observe the renounced order strictly. So, number 4, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to prove that his devotees are exalted and their character is ideal. He kindly accepts his faithful devotees and teaches them how much tribulation disturbance can be produced by even a slight deviation from the strict principles of devotional life. Number 5, by chastising Junior Haridasa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mercy toward him, and thus showing how elevated was Junior Haridasa's devotion for him. Because of this transcendental relationship, the Lord corrected even a slight offense committed by a pure devotee. Therefore, one who wants to be a pure devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should give up all material sense gratification. Otherwise, the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very difficult to attain. Number 6, if one dies in such a celebrated holy place as Prayag, Mathura, or Vrindavan, one can be relieved of the reactions to sinful life and then attain the shelter of the personality of Godhead. Number 7, although a pure or faithful devotee may fall down, he nevertheless ultimately gets the chance to go back home, back to Godhead by the mercy of the Lord. Antya chapter 2, 205 and 206 pages. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on this incident as follows. Vaishnavas are all liberated persons, unattached to anything material. Therefore, a Vaishnava need not accept the dress of a sannyasi to prove his exalted position. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounce order from a sannyasi of the Mayavada school. Present-day Vaishnava sannyasis, however, never think that by accepting the dress of sannyasa order, they have become equal to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In fact, a Vaishnava accepts the sannyasa order to remain an eternal servant of his spiritual master. He accepts the sannyasa order knowing that he is unequal to his spiritual master, who is Paramahamsa, and he thinks that he is unfit to dress like Paramahamsa. Therefore, Vaishnava accepts sannyasa out of humility, not of pride. Sanatana Goswami had adopted the dress of Paramahamsa, therefore it was inappropriate for him to wear the saffron cloth on his head. However, a Vaishnava sannyasi does not think himself fit to imitate the dress of Paramahamsa Vaishnava. According to principles set down by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Trinada Pisunichana, one should always think himself in the lowest stage, not on the level of Paramahamsa Vaishnava. Thus, a Vaishnava will sometimes accept the sannyas order just to keep himself below the level of a Paramahamsa Vaishnava. This is the instruction of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Hantiya chapter 30. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that all writers of Vrindavan Das Thakur, who are pure devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and who have tried to describe the Lord's activities, are to be considered like Vyasa. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is the original Vyasa when describing Chaitanya Lila, and all others who follow in his footsteps by describing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pastimes are also to be called Vyasadeva. The bona fide spiritual master is called Vyasa because he is a representative of Vyasa. So worshipping the birthday of such spiritual master is called Vyasa Puja. The statement Age Vyasa Karibe Varnane is similar to a text in Chaitanya Bhagavat, in which Vrindavan Das Thakur says, Sesha Kande Chaitanya Ananta Vilasa Vistariya Varnita Achana Veda Vyasa. The unlimited pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be described by Vyasadeva in the future. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that these statements indicate that in the future, other representative of Vyasadeva will elaborately describe Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. The purport is that any pure devotee in the disciple succession who describe the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is confirmed to be a representative of Vyasadeva. Chaitanya Antalila chapter 20. Concluding words. So now we have finished the English translation of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. In accordance with the authorized order of His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, my beloved eternal spiritual master, guide and friend. Although according to material vision, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada passed away from this material world on the last day of December 1936, I still consider His Divine Grace to be always present with me by His Vani, His words. In this connection, we may call to memory the time when I was fortunate enough to meet His Divine Grace Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, sometime in the year 1922. Srila Prabhupada had come to Calcutta from Sridham Mayapur to start the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math. He was sitting in a house at Udaltadanga when, through the inducement of an intimate friend, the late Sriman Narendra Malik, I had the opportunity to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. I do not remember the actual date of the meeting, but at that time I was one of the managers of Dr. Bose Laboratory in Calcutta. I was newly married young man, addicted to Gandhi's movement, and dressed in khadi. Fortunately, even at our first meeting, His Divine Grace advised me to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in English in the Western countries. Because at that time I was complete nationalist, a follower of Mahatma Gandhi, I submitted to His Divine Grace that unless our country was freed from foreign subjugation, no one would hear our message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seriously. Of course, we had some argument on this subject, but at the last I was defeated and convinced that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message is the final panacea for suffering humanity. I was also convinced that the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was then in the hands of very expert devotee, and that surely the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world. I could not, however, immediately take up his instruction to preach, but I took his words very seriously and I was always thinking of how to execute his order, although I was quite unfit to do so. In 1936, just before His Divine Grace passed away at Jagannath Puri, I wrote him a letter asking what I could do to serve him. In reply, he wrote me a letter dated 1996, December 1936, December 13, ordering me in the same way to preach in English the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as I heard it from him. In any case, when I published Srimad Bhagavatam first canto in 3 volumes in India, I thought of going to USA. By the mercy of His Divine Grace, I was able to come to New York on September 17, 1965. Since then, I have translated many books, including Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, a summary, and many others. In the meantime, I was induced to translate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and publish it in publish it in an elaborate version. In his later time, in later life, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur would simply read Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was his favorite book. He used to say that there would be a time when foreigners would learn the Bengali language to read Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, it is finished. I think that His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur is always seeing my activities and guiding me within my heart by his words. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahmarudayadi Kaviye, the spiritual inspiration comes from within the heart, wherein the Supreme Personality Godhead in his Paramatma feature is always sitting with all his devotees and associates. It is to be admitted that whatever translation work I have done is through the inspiration of my spiritual master, because personally I am most insignificant and incompetent to do this materially impossible work. I do not think myself a very learned scholar, but I have full faith in the service of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. If there is any credit to my activities of translating, it is all due to His Divine Grace. Certainly, if His Divine Grace were physically present at this time, it would have been a great occasion of jubilation. But even though He is not physically present, I am confident that He is very pleased by the work of this translation, by this work of translation. He was very fond of seeing many books published to spread the Krishna conscious movement. Therefore, our society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, has formed to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. Until concluding words, pages 319 to 21. I was also earlier reading the formation of Vishwa Vaishnava Raja Sabha, like Gaudiya and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur was really establishing in the similar lines how Srila Prabhupada is establishing this Krishna consciousness movement. He says our Krishna consciousness movement is formed to execute the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, unlike, for the purpose of putting a temple or something like that. That's the consciousness behind this big establishment. Okay. 176.
How many more?
9 more pages, I think. I think I'll wrap it up here. We will come back. We will wrap it up here. We can read it ourselves. Or maybe we'll see tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Yeah. Somehow it's going very slow. We have to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. But any case, appreciation for these personalities are not normal. I think from the engaged in the daily affairs, we lose track of the potency of these personalities or the mood and mission or intention or the power of these personalities. So it's really getting the reset of then on in appreciation. I appreciate, in I inspiring appreciation for really these personalities.
Yeah. Lion, Guru, and everything that he accomplished. Totally amazing.
Yeah.
That's a ray of Vishnu. Who has this? Who's the right author of the ray of Vishnu?
Bhumipati Prabhu, what's his name? Ray of Vishnu. Rupvilas Das, Rupvilas Prabhu.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Okay, Mataji.